Have you ever been frightened by the very thought of failure? Have you ever wondered why, despite your best efforts, you don't always succeed in achieving what you want? Why sometimes it seems like the world is against you, and everything you take on seems to crumble in your hands? This fear is nothing but our own enemy, which is born inside us. But did you know that the great sages of the past were not only not afraid of failures, they saw them as strength? Can you imagine a life in which failure ceases to be an enemy and becomes your ally, your most faithful mentor? Today I will tell you how to cope with failure, based on the age-old wisdom of the Stoics. These people knew how to take the blows of fate with unprecedented resilience and turned every failure in their favor. Their teachings are still relevant today, in our world full of instability and uncertainty. Perhaps this is the secret that will help you find inner harmony and learn not only to cope with defeats, but also to use them as a springboard for future victories. Have you ever wondered why some people rise with even more strength after falling, while others give up halfway through? How do they find the strength to keep going even though all seems lost? The answer to these questions can change your perception of life. Imagine that every time something goes wrong, you no longer feel despair. Instead, you feel calm and confident that this is just part of your journey. This is possible if you begin to look at failure with Stoic eyes. Failures are an inevitable part of our journey. But what if we learned to face them with a smile? What if every failure became an opportunity instead of a cause for despondency? An opportunity to become stronger, wiser, more experienced. Imagine that every failure is a step towards your success. That's what we will talk about in our today's issue. We will not talk about how to avoid failures. We will talk about how to accept them, how to learn to use them for your benefit, and how, in the end, they can lead you to great success. It may seem that ancient philosophers lived in a completely different world, where everything was different. But in fact, their world was no less complex than ours, and their wisdom is time-tested. What if this wisdom is the very thing you need to change your life? What if the secret to your success is hidden in the ability to deal with failure? We'll find the answers to these questions in today's episode. Get ready. Because ahead of you, you will have a frank and deep conversation about how to turn your failures into a source of strength. How to learn to see them not as the end, but as the beginning. The beginning of a new stage full of opportunities and prospects. This issue will be a real guide to the world of Stoic philosophy, and perhaps it will help you find the very inner harmony you have been looking for. Stoic philosophy teaches us that failure is not just an inevitable part of life, but an important aspect of our inner growth and character formation. In this regard, the Stoics offered an approach that goes beyond simply accepting failure. They saw each failure as an opportunity for self-development and enrichment of the inner world. In this context, failure becomes not an enemy to be avoided, but an ally to be embraced with an open heart. One of the key concepts of Stoicism is the idea that our failures are a reflection of our expectations. A person often suffers not from the events themselves, but from their expectations, which do not correspond to reality. The Stoics taught us to develop in ourselves the ability to adequately perceive events, regardless of their outcome. This does not mean that we should give up the pursuit of success. On the contrary, it means that we should develop in ourselves flexibility and willingness to adapt to any circumstances that may arise in our path. The Stoics said that failure is an opportunity to free ourselves from illusions. In the process of living, we often build air castles, create idealized images of the future that do not correspond to reality. When our plans fall apart, it is painful, but it is also a moment of truth. It is in such moments that we can see the world as it is and realize that true happiness and satisfaction come not from external achievements, but from inner peace and wisdom. Failure, in fact, becomes a mirror in which our true needs and aspirations are reflected. For the Stoics, what was important was not only how we perceive failure, but also how we act after it. The Stoics believed that every failure is a challenge that must be accepted with dignity. It is important not to lose heart, but to use the experience to rethink one's actions and find new solutions. This is the essence of Stoic courage, the ability not only to withstand difficulties, but also to find in them a source for further movement forward. The Stoics believed that failure hardens our character, makes us more stable and purposeful. Stoic philosophy also emphasizes the importance of personal responsibility. When we are faced with failure, it is a time to look inside ourselves and understand what brought us to this point. The Stoics taught us that every event in our lives is the result of our own decisions and actions. This does not mean that we should blame ourselves for every failure, but it does mean that we should take responsibility for our lives. This approach helps us step out of the role of victim of circumstances and become active creators of our destiny. Epictetus often said that nothing is more important in life than how we perceive and interpret what happens. He emphasized that if we can develop the ability to accept failure as a natural part of our journey, we can find inner peace and harmony. This perception makes us less vulnerable to external circumstances and allows us to maintain clarity of mind in the most difficult situations. In this way, failure ceases to be something that throws us off track and becomes a stepping stone to inner enlightenment and harmony. Another interesting aspect of Stoic philosophy is the concept of time. The Stoics saw time as a continuous flow in which every moment is an opportunity for change, for growth and development. Failures, which seem to us final and inevitable, in the Stoic perspective become only temporary obstacles that can be overcome. It is important not to get stuck in the past, not to regret what has already happened, but to focus on the present moment and use it to create a better future. This approach allows us to keep. Marcus Aurelius said that we cannot change the past, but we can change our attitude towards it. This is a profound thought that teaches us not to cling to past mistakes, but to use them as a basis for future successes. The past should not limit us, it should teach us. The Stoics believe that our task is to learn from our mistakes, not dwell on them. This approach helps us not only to recover more quickly from failures, but also to avoid them in the future. Stoic philosophy also emphasizes the importance of moderation and balance in life. The Stoics believed that excessive striving for success could lead to disappointment and suffering if failure was inevitable. They advised moderation in one's desires and aspirations so as not to become a slave to one's ambition. This approach teaches us to appreciate what we have and not to depend on external circumstances. It is important to remember that true happiness and fulfillment come not from external achievements, but from inner peace and harmony. An equally important aspect of Stoicism is the idea of constant self-improvement. The Stoics believe that human beings should strive for perfection despite their mistakes and failures. This striving should not be compulsive, but should be a natural expression of our nature. What matters is not whether we have achieved our goal, but how we go about it. The Stoics taught us to value the very process of moving forward, no matter what obstacles we encounter along the way. This teaching helps us stay motivated and believe in ourselves even when things don't go as we planned. The Stoic view of relationships between people is also interesting. The Stoics believe that our relationships with others play an important role in our perception of failure. If we are surrounded by supportive and understanding people, we can cope more easily with difficulties. However, the Stoics also emphasized the importance of independence from external support. They taught us to develop inner strength and resilience to be able to cope with any difficulties, regardless of whether there is someone around to help us. This teaching helps us to become more self-reliant. The Stoics also taught us to respect our inner dignity. They believe that every failure is an opportunity to test one's principles and values, to strengthen one's self-confidence and beliefs. It is important to maintain inner dignity and not let external circumstances destroy our inner peace. The Stoics believe that one's true strength lies in one's ability to maintain inner peace and balance, no matter what is going on around us. This approach helps us to remain strong and confident even when the world seems hostile to us. Stoicism also emphasizes acceptance of the inevitable. The Stoics believe that setbacks and difficulties are part and parcel of life and cannot be avoided. Rather than fighting the inevitable, they suggested accepting it as part of one's journey. This does not mean passive humility, but rather active acceptance, which allows us to maintain inner peace and mental clarity in all circumstances. Acceptance of the inevitable helps us to conserve our energy for those actions that really matter and not waste energy on things we don't. Stoic philosophy teaches us to find meaning in every event that happens in our lives. Even failures can have deep meaning if we learn to see them as lessons and opportunities for growth. The Stoics believe that every failure is part of our journey, part of our destiny. If we can find meaning in our failures, they cease to be something frightening and destructive and become a source of strength and inspiration. This idea helps us look at life with optimism and the belief that everything that happens has a reason and meaning. The Stoics also emphasize the importance of humility. They taught that a person's true strength lies in their ability to admit their mistakes and learn from them. Humility helps us not only to learn from our failures, but also to avoid arrogance and complacency. The Stoics believe that a person should be willing to admit their mistakes and correct them, rather than hide or ignore them. This humility allows us to be open to growth and development, even when we face difficulties. An important aspect of Stoic philosophy is also the idea that our actions should be for the benefit of others. The Stoics believe that human beings should strive for virtue to serve society and others. When we face setbacks, it is important to remember that our actions affect not only ourselves but also those around us. The Stoics taught us to be responsible for our actions and to strive to ensure that our actions benefit others. This approach helps us stay motivated and strong even when circumstances are not in our favor. Stoic philosophy also emphasizes the importance of gratitude. The Stoics believe that every moment of life, every failure, and every success is a gift to be appreciated. Gratitude helps us to maintain a positive attitude toward life and to see the good in every situation. It teaches us not to take anything for granted, but to appreciate everything we have and everything that happens in our lives. This gratitude helps us to cope with difficulties and failures, to see them not only as problems, but also as opportunities for growth and development. And finally, the Stoics taught us to see beauty in simple things. They believe that true happiness and fulfillment can be found not in great achievements, but in small things, in everyday joys. This approach helps us not to dwell on failures and disappointments, but to find joy and meaning in every moment of life. Stoics believe that a person should be grateful for every minute of his life, for every new day, for every opportunity to learn and develop. This philosophy teaches us to see life in all its fullness and beauty, even when it seems difficult and unfair. Thus, Stoic philosophy gives us a powerful tool for overcoming failures and difficulties. It teaches us to accept life as it is, to see every situation as an opportunity for growth and self-improvement. The Stoics believed that a person is able to cope with any difficulties if he or she maintains inner peace and faith in himself or herself. This philosophy helps us not only to cope with failures, but also to use them as a springboard for further growth and development. Eventually, failures cease to be an obstacle in our path and become ours. If this episode inspired you, if you felt that it helped you to see your life in a new light, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We will continue to reveal to you the wisdom of ancient philosophers, tell you how this knowledge can change your life for the better. Click on the bell to not miss our next episodes. After all, there are many more interesting topics ahead of us that will help you to become stronger, wiser, and more successful. Don't forget to put a like if you like this video. This is the best way to show your support and let us know that you are interested in our topics. We will be glad to see your comments. Share your thoughts about Stoic approach to failures. Tell us how you cope with difficulties in your life. Your stories can inspire other viewers, help them to find their way to success. Remember that failures are just a part of your journey, and it's up to you whether they become obstacles or steps on the way to the top. Stoic philosophy teaches us to see every challenge as a new opportunity. And if you adopt this viewpoint, your life will become more meaningful and complete. Let your failures become your mentors rather than obstacles. Subscribe to our channel because there are many more exciting topics ahead of us. We will explore the world of philosophy and psychology together, looking for answers to the most important questions of life. And remember that each new video is a step towards your best version. Thank you for being with us, and see you in the next issues.